What's up, guys? This is Drew Thornton, front of house for Billie Eilish. Not too long ago, I posted a video about tips and tricks and questions and answers and whatnot. And we got a bunch of questions, so I figured now would be a good time to answer them. Now, I got my session set up, so you can kind of see what's going on here. A little split screen action going on here between there. And just so we could start off on a clean slate, just so we know what's going on here, the first soft key is usually for all the inputs, and the middle bank is for the outputs. The outside bank is usually for like text stuff, for me anyway. And then this last soft key on each layer is where I run my show, just so we're all clear on that. Anyway, we'll jump right into it. It looks like our first question comes from Maddie, and he's asking me what is inside my effects slots. All right, let's check it out. We got here. So starting from the top. Now, I've been watching a lot of tutorials as well, so I have tons of ideas now how to change everything. It's perfect. But right now, as my show has gone through, what was it? We did 3 shows before the end of the tour, before we got pulled off the road. But anyway, the first effect engine I have is a drum verb. So I only have one for drums. I have a vocal verb, usually like a plate. I have an ADT, kind of like a doubler, to thicken Billie's vocal. 4 is basically a background vocal, mainly Finn, because he's the only other person singing. I have a tap delay. I have a slap delay here. I have a room reverb. It's kind of a small room, mainly for instruments and whatnot, like acoustic guitar or ukulele or anything else. Then I have a piano hall. And then these 2 I haven't really utilized a whole lot yet. This is a vocal verb dump. So basically I can set up a soft key to basically just dump a ton of vocal reverb and then mute it. And I set up a soft key on that mix, so I can basically, just shoot a ton of information into that reverb unit and then mute it so that all you get is the tail. But I didn't end up needing it on some of the effects. So we started automating some of that in Ableton as well. And then we have a snare delay, which we also didn't end up using. I set it up for, I'm trying to remember which song it is, No Time to Die. But we actually decided against it, felt like it was too busy. As for other processing, now these are
Transient Controller.
Now we'll get into that later when we get to the other question regarding deep processing and certain effects. But things to note too. Now, this is also crossing boundaries into another question, but all of these effects, 1 through 12, I believe. I'll have to check my scope, but I believe 1 through 12 is automated, so it changes from song to song. And another note that I wanted to add, I saw a lot of people using effects returns in your configuration, which I don't necessarily do. I tend to use the channels because I feel like the interesting thing about the channels is if you look right here, you get this interesting little effects unit output. And I don't know when they added this, but it's really slick. So that way what you can do is if you're automating, like for instance, I would recommend if you guys got into automation, the first thing to do would be to like start small. You're starting with your effects, and from song to song, alternate your effects. Well, the interesting thing about this EQ right here is that it follows your effects engine. So it saves within this engine. So if you add just this to the scope, it will also add this. And this is actually pretty handy when you want to do drastic different EQ changes to your returns. I think it's awesome. It's pretty slick because I don't generally like automating the EQs for the effects returns, but sometimes I like to add a lot of low end to a reverb, or I want a sparkly reverb or something. So it's a pretty cool little thing you can do to keep in mind. And also it saves buses. So if you're going to use a lot of buses, instead of using your effects returns, which don't actually, I'm not sure, but I kind of remember the last time I looked at it, you don't really have a whole lot of processing on the returns themselves. You can utilize your channel strips and directly dump your effects right into channels and then save on your bus count. So when you're configuring, you can do more groups or matrices or other kind of interesting things. I think that's definitely the best way to go.